Microphone check 1 2, testing 1 2 3. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear. Welcome to the Sleuth Intuition channel. Today we're going to dive into Abby and Libby's case. We all know that Richard Allen is pushing for his appeal, and these are some recent exhibits filed for that cause. So we have this being filed at some point today, this afternoon. Notice of filing of supplemental exhibit volumes. And then shortly after, we have the exhibits. So we're going to go through them. I haven't gone through them in its entirety. I've just gone through maybe the first 10% of it. So we're going to be going through this together. Let's put those comments up on the screen. Stephanie, what's up? Good to see you. Jennifer, how's it going? Miss Dog Lover, how are you? I'm sorry to hear that you're having a rough day. Hang in there. It's about us all. Patty, good to see you. Jill. Kelly O, welcome in. Christine and Cindy Lean. Can you guys, for those of you who like to read along, can you see that okay up on the screen? How about that? Is that better? Do you guys prefer it that close or maybe a little bit? No, let's back off just a little bit. How about that? How's it going, Jill? All right, so let's go through the index. I've already set aside a few interesting pieces, but we're definitely going to start with Kathy Allen's interview. That's the one thing that's caught my eye. I haven't seen anything or redacted anything, so this is as raw as it gets. You know, you want transparency? Here you go. This was made public today. She Warrior, what's going on? Nice. Get nice and comfy. All right, it's going to be a lot of reading, so hopefully I can keep my vocal cords alive. Okay, so as you can see up at the top, you have today's date, November 10th. Man, did this year fly by or what? Every year I get freaked out about how fast the year seems to fly by, faster than the year prior. What is that? It's like a nightmare. So there you have it, November 10th, today's date. Non-confidential supplemental documentary exhibit volume. So we had this put out today, notice of filing of supplemental exhibit volumes. The court reporter for Judge Francis Gold hereby notifies the parties pursuant to Appellate Rule 11A that the supplemental exhibit volumes ordered in this cause have been prepared and certified and are complete, consisting of exhibits referenced in the motion for Frank's hearing, which is the majority of what we're going to see, really, because that'll be a big win for Richard Allen if he can get that pushed through, right? That was filed September 18th, and motion to correct errors filed January 20th. I'm sure I have those documents lying around somewhere. But let's just dive right in. Got a lot to cover. Tam B, welcome in. Good to see you. Who else did I miss? Did I get you, Kristen? Yeah, welcome welcome in Stephanie. Welcome back and sees through. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that pretty good. So I'm not sure why they did it this way, but this index is not very detailed. Like right here, it says affidavit. It doesn't really give you any information about what the affidavit is about or who it's even relating to, right? Is it an affidavit of Brad Holder? Like affidavit of what? Certificate of analysis. So I really want to look at the DNA results as well. Very interesting. I feel like there's been a lot of misinformation being pushed out there on social media about male DNA being found here, male DNA, like the girls were just covered in male DNA. That's just blatant lies, really. Inquisitive, what up? Golfing went okay. Got a couple pars, had to leave early, but man, I'm fucking beat. I feel like I got in a fight. When you get in a fight and your whole body's just like completely sore. I definitely pushed myself a little bit too hard. Female DNA too. Exactly. If they were to go ahead and swab you, Stephanie, if you have men that you've been around, today, yesterday, that weekend, maybe touching your laundry, folding your clothes, moving your laundry. Like, for instance, sometimes I'll take my wife's clothes out of the dryer, put them into a hamper, and then bring them into the room. And then I'll take my clothes from the washer into the dryer. So does that mean that my DNA is now on a piece of her clothing? If she wears that clothing and they were to test it, is it going to be covered in her DNA, my DNA, maybe even the gas station clerk's DNA? Who knows? Who did she bump into? Oh, yeah. I had blisters on my hand. That was part of the problem. Okay. Certificate of analysis. Some kind of graph. I think that's the water level for Deer Creek. Looks like autopsy notes. And then it just says photo. So these labels are very generic. It's kind of annoying, but it's okay. We're going to go through it anyway. A lot of this stuff we've already seen, and I haven't even seen all of this yet. So we're going to that's what I like to do on this channel. Take you with me along for my true crime journey, right? These are the things that I'm interested in. These are the things that I'm looking into, that I'm investigating or studying, reviewing. I just kind of bring you along. Because a lot of you are doing the same thing, following a lot of the same cases, and have really good ideas that are helpful. So, what's up, Miss Dog Lover? Yeah, hang in there. So, police report, affidavit, email. So, I mean, it's better just to go through it. And if we've gone, sorry, I'm sneezing, had it on mute. But if a lot of the stuff is redundant and we've gone over it before, we might just kind of breeze through it. So let's get started. Okay, so it looks like that's the affidavit of Todd Click. Not quite sure what this is. Law offices of Barada. To Nick. Not sure who sent that. You guys know who that is? Barada Law Offices, LLC. What's going on, Eli? Welcome, welcome. It's the Book of Eli. I'm sure this isn't too long, probably like 6 pages. We can read this. Just not today. That'll be in part 2. Yeah, it's not too long. Quick email from Todd, and we'll get to all of this eventually. But today I really want to focus on the DNA and Kathy Allen's transcripts from her interview. I'm curious what she has to say about that day. You know, kind of sets the atmosphere. And also to kind of get a vibe if she's being truthful. I haven't read it yet, so like I said, the index isn't very helpful. But here, this should be the DNA here. So, Indiana State Police Laboratory Division Certificate of Analysis. So, there's been a lot of misinformation about the DNA kind of circulating mainly on X, right? All these Richard Allen supporters, they want to act like there's this male DNA all over their genitalia and things like that. And that's just not true. So let's go to the source, right? Something that we preach here on this channel. If you have a question, go to the source. So if you want to know anything about the DNA, here you go. There's the certificate of analysis. Go there. Don't go to some random X post. All right. So item 20A. No male DNA was detected on the swab of the left wrist. And it doesn't tell us who they're referring to. Is this Abby or Libby? Is this both of them? Not quite sure. Item 021. Swab from inside of the right wrist. Serological testing indicated the possible presence of blood. Additional serological testing for blood was not performed in order to preserve the sample for DNA analysis. The swab was retained as item 021A. The original packaging will be returned to the submitting agency. Hey, Cheeks. What up? Good to see you. Welcome in, CJK. Welcome in, guys. Feral Calc Chronicles. Thanks for the good vibes. Sometimes they go a long way. Dark Side, welcome in. Luke. I am your father. No, it can't be. All right. No male DNA was detected on the swab of the right wrist. Swab from above the belly button. Blood was detected. The swab was retained as item 022A. The original packaging will be returned to the submitting agency. 022A. The swab from above the belly button failed to demonstrate a sufficient quantity of male DNA for further analysis. So what can be, I don't know, deduced, I guess, from that is that they found male DNA, but it's just not a good enough sample to really tie it to anybody, at least with our technology. So I don't know. Can they preserve something like that for later testing? And also, here, 023 buccal swab standard for James David Lucas. Now, James David Lucas is somebody that was looked at early on because he kind of looks like the bridge guy, and he has a really shady Facebook. Like, all of his friends are just prostitutes, and he has like 1,000 friends. He doesn't try to hide it. He has no shame. But another interesting fact is James David Lucas is the neighbor of the Flora Four, the sisters who were killed in an arson fire in Flora. He was one of their neighbors and recently was interviewed by local media and made a statement. So it's interesting to see him making statements to local media for the Delphi case, which he did. I have the video. And then also for the Flora Fire case, which I have that video. So very interesting. They took his phone. But who cares if they're doing these buccal swabs? If there's no male DNA found at the crime scene, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if Kagan Klein and Tony Klein gave their blood, gave their hair follicle, did the buccal swab? Who cares if anybody did that? Julian Powell, right? They took his blood. Everybody was like, he's obviously cleared. He's not involved in this. They took his blood, this and that. It does not matter. That doesn't clear anybody because they don't have anything to compare it to, And a lot of people make a big deal about Richard Allen's DNA being at the crime scene. You have to remember no male DNA that can be tested was found. So it's not just Richard Allen. That means that the killer wasn't a man. If that's the logic that you're using, right? Oh, well, they didn't find Richard Allen's DNA. Well, they didn't find any male DNA. So you can't just say Richard Allen. That goes for any suspects. You could use that same logic for Brad Holder. Well, they didn't find Brad Holder's DNA at the crime scene. Well, they didn't find anybody's DNA when it comes to men or males. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, huh? James David Lucas. There's a pattern there with that guy. Yeah, online sleuths were all over that dude. All right, 023A. The DNA profile developed from the standard was used for comparison purposes. Item 25. Buccal swab standard. James Maxwell. Remember, that's the Bicycle Bridge Road search warrant that was served. This is the first time I heard about a 40 caliber weapon. And guess what, guys? Once I heard about something pertaining to the 40 caliber that was found at the crime scene, did you guys ever hear me make a video about it? No. So that is an interesting fact. That information was released pretty much around the time of the Wabash River search. And shortly after that, they had the arrest of Richard Allen. So I don't know if that forced their hand. I don't know if they were feeling pressure. Like, hey, we can't lose that. If Richard Allen finds out that we have this bullet, he's going to get rid of that gun. So we got to act. We got to move quickly. Because people were doing live streams about it. Like, come on, guys. Have some restraint. I understand what you're doing. I understand your drive and you're curious. I love that. But, show a little bit of restraint. Okay, swab of the thigh. Serological testing indicated the possible presence of blood. Additional serological testing for blood was not performed in order to preserve the sample of DNA analysis. The swab was retained as item 26A. The original packaging will be returned to the submitting agency. The male DNA was detected. No male DNA was detected on the swab of the thigh. Material from the left pinky finger. Hair demonstrating characteristics consistent with human hair but not having root. Material with the potential for nuclear DNA analysis was observed. The item will be returned to the submitting agency. So I don't know. I think that might be Kelsey's hair. So very interesting. So that might just be either Abby or Libby. Maybe there's more information on male DNA being found on one or the other. So we're just going to kind of slowly go through this entire thing so we don't miss anything. And we're not going to waste our time with the index because it's very generic and there's no detailed information anyway. Okay, this is what I had a question for you guys on. And I'll also check online as well. What is gauge height? Are they talking about the hill? Are they talking about comparing it to the phone data? Are they talking about the water level? To me, it just sounds like, water. And I can't quite see what this is. I don't know. This almost looks like time, like the time of day. I don't know. If it's meters, I'm not sure. Let me see. How is gauge height measured? It says in feet. So that must be almost 4 feet high. So that's not very deep. And this must be the deepest part over here. So that does sound about right. About 3 feet in the deepest part where they crossed. And then the majority of it was kind of ankle high. So, I mean, that makes sense to me. But I could be wrong on that. Correct me, you guys, if I'm off. Thank you, CJK. Hit the thumbs up. Don't be a scrub. And if you're feeling froggy, hit the Cash App. If you can't hit the Cash App, hit the like button. I don't know, Cheeks. That's what I'm telling you. It's not very detailed. And it's a little upsetting. I don't know if they did that on purpose or just to save time and effort. I'm just not sure. I feel like they did it generically and then were planned to go back and fill in some details and then just kind of said, screw it. So I don't know if that was for Abby or Libby. I apologize. Now here's some of the Frank stuff, and I'll zoom out so you guys can get this, right? This is where they're trying to paint the picture of the crime scene and the positioning of the girls' bodies and the sticks as some kind of a ritual. And one thing I want to mention is, first off, this is not the positioning of Abby. Her legs weren't like this. Her foot was crossed more down here by her ankle. And it's almost obvious that she was sitting down. It looks like she was sitting down and possibly trying to hide the phone and the shoe underneath her, between her legs, and like trying to access the phone while he's doing all this shit, covering Libby and moving her and doing all this shit. And she doesn't realize that he sat her there for a purpose because he plans to hide her, just like he's doing with Libby. So her foot wasn't positioned like this, and she wasn't hanging, like there wasn't anything wrapped on her foot. Her hands weren't bound, and her arms weren't really crossed, but they were up like that, up against her chest. But I feel like that might be common. And then you have this guy with the horns. Anybody that's seen the crime scene photos, there were no horns. These are antlers, right? Anyway, antlers are not horns. So there's a difference there. But if it was Elvis Fields, I mean, that idiot wouldn't know the difference. Picture of Brad Holder. Not sure it matters. He has an alibi. So you're going to have a problem finding a nexus there. The dude has an alibi. You have to break the alibi. I'm cool with that. Ain't got no problem with that. But that's your first step. You can't do anything until you do that. And then you have this red F down here too, which is very suspicious. But this is a guy. The F at the crime scene would have been more like up here. And once again, the girls weren't hung. There's no evidence or proof that they were strung up in any way, form, or fashion. So this is irrelevant. This was painted by a man who has an alibi, and it doesn't represent the crime scene in any shape or form. Because you would have to subscribe to the premise that the hand print on the tree is a rune, and it's just too subjective. It's just your opinion versus mine. And then they kind of included, it looks like some literature, sacrificial ideology, and Old Norse religion. This is probably a really good read and educational, and we might get to that as well in due time. I've probably already read this. So I'm sure we'll find that interesting. Let's see. Oh, this is the supplemental report. So we've already gone through the Odin report. If you guys want to go check out that live stream, feel free. I actually have it printed out right here next to my desk. So I think we're coming up on some really interesting things here. Specifically the original Betsy Blair tip. That's going to blow your mind. So this is the stuff that we've already seen. This is all the Frank's stuff. Hey, these are the alternative suspects here. Which they are, I think they're good suspects. The only thing is they all have alibis. That's one of the major things that Richard Allen does not have. Right? The only reason we're not talking about Keegan Kline or Tony Kline is because they have alibis. Right? I mean, come on, the guy confessed. Wouldn't he make a great suspect? Well, absolutely. But why aren't we talking about them? Because they have an alibi. So you have to break the alibi if you plan on creating a nexus, right? To me, that just seems like an obvious. I think this 726 North Charles Street, that might actually even be doxing Patrick Westfall. That might be his address or an old address. Not sure. And then also you have the tattoo from Brad Holder, right? Looks very similar to the sticks that were placed over Abby. Those are really the only ones that even match. But this is probably the most likely to just randomly happen, during a crime, during something natural. If you throw a pile of sticks down, one of the things you might see are 3 that cross. And the sticks over Abby were not perfect like this at all. You can see they're all kind of placed over one side of her body. They're there to hide her from an angle, not placed over the top of her. And yes, they're 3 intersecting sticks, but not in the middle of each stick, right? Not like an asterisk. It's more like the tips. It's more like a teepee, really. You kind of cross the teepee at the top, and the majority of the sticks are at the base of the teepee. It's more like that. Not what you see on his hand. And once again, he has an alibi. As far as we know, he was clocked in at 5 something in the morning and stayed until 2:45. So I don't know why you're talking about this guy. Yes, does he make a perfect person of interest? Absolutely. I mean, look at this photograph. Camping, and it looks just like, very similar. I wouldn't say just like, but very similar to Abby and Libby's crime scene. Does he make a great suspect? Hell yeah. He was my first person of interest. He was Becky Patty's first person of interest. He was Julie Melvin's first person of interest. Everybody that I knew early on in the case was talking about Brad Holder. because all this ritualistic shit and all of the rumors that we were hearing, and our imagination was running wild with what might have actually happened, and it's just hard to accept when you hear the reality of it, right? This opportunistic killer, most likely, right? That's what the evidence says. If we want results and we want to prove a theory, you have to be able to bring facts. Otherwise, you have to go with what you can prove. Anthony France, good to see you, my friend. Is the level of water in the river? Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks, Cheeks. K2K17, what's up? Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I would guess that is feet. Yeah, it says it right at the top, feet. These copies are just so bad. All right, let's try to catch up here. Yeah, we got you, Miss Dog Lover. Jari. Timmy's in the building. I think gauge height water measurement. Thank you, guys. Miss Dog Lover, you will be in my prayers. Some more positive energy from Cindy. Thank you, Cindy. Stephanie says twigs. Yeah, and then all the weird shit that he was doing with these sticks, right? Everything to him was a ruin. And he was a very strange dude. And he's a Freemason, right? Nick McClelland's a Freemason. It's just it's not a good patina. It's not a good look. Anthony says Richard Allen had to have planned what he was going to murder them once they crossed the bridge. I don't know. I can't prove that. What I think and what I can prove are two separate things. Like, I have a million theories. Here's the guy that Ryan Boucher, we used to call him the Water Boy. Ooh, the Water Boy, just because his last name. But he's the one that tipped in that photograph he found on Brad Holder's Facebook. Like I said, he's a great person of interest. I mean, what are you going to do with somebody? You can't charge somebody with a crime when they have an alibi. I mean, you can, but you're wasting everybody's time, right? Because you're going to take it to trial, and what's going to happen? They're going to prove that they have an alibi, and then they're going to be let off. Some more Facebook stuff about the Franks memo. We have all this, right? We've talked about this. And this is the stuff that makes it's peculiar. You have a guy that's connected to Abby through his son. You have a conversation that we uncovered early on in the investigation of Libby communicating with Brad Holder's son. And then he says, well, I can't talk. I'm grounded. And then right after she hangs up with him, she gets a call from a strange number. She's like, hey, that strange number called and left a message. So the timing of it, he could be stalking her, right? But why would you waste time on a theory if you're not even attempting to break the alibi, which I think is paper thin anyway? His alibi is this, you guys. He walks into his company. There's a basket standing next to the time card scanner, and you have a card that's amongst everybody else's card. So you pick up the cards, you shuffle through them, and you grab your card, scan it, and then you throw your card back in the bucket. There's nothing secure about that. Absolutely nothing. And also, he never leaves for lunch. So all he would really have to do is, I don't know, leave his truck there, drive his truck to work, have somebody else clock in, and then he leaves in another vehicle. I mean, if you're going to waste your time talking about Brad Holder, you have to do those things. You have to break his alibi. Otherwise, it's pointless. And it's paper thin, I agree. Just like Kagan Klein's and Tony Klein's. And then you have all this weird shit, right? Right after. I mean, this is like the next day, I believe. Your real ones don't judge you or ask a bunch of questions. They help you move the body and never speak of it again. See, but I think this just isn't. This is goes hand in hand with his normal behavior. This isn't something out of the blue. Like this is the type. If you go before the crimes, it was shit like this. It's just he's just an insensitive person. And then here he is the night of the killing or the mornings, the day that the girls were found at 2 a.m. Early in the morning, he's working out at the gym. I mean, it's fucking bizarre. And all this stuff with Elvis Fields. Oh my God, they're showing the same shit. Two small town Indiana hicks are posting the same photographs, and they live in similar areas. Oh my God. What did the authorities say? Let's try to catch up on the chat. Boston Christian, what up? He's got 2 strikes. What do you mean, Stephanie? 2 strikes as in legally? Like he's in a habitual offender? Is that what you mean by 2 strikes? Or being a good suspect, he checks off those boxes. Oh, let's go to dark side. Was there also a green headscarf, aka bandana, actually found, or was that just BS? No, it was testified, dark side, that there was a bandana, but they believe it had been there for a long time. Like it was all dirty and mucky. It looked weathered, so they didn't really connect it. So I don't know. I don't know if it had anything to do with anything. Hey, Mary C, what's going on? No, you really didn't miss anything. You missed a lot of. Well, basically, we talked a little bit about the DNA. I think pertaining to one of the girls. Unfortunately, the index and all of this isn't. It's not detailed, so we really don't know what's what. So here you go. This looks like they're talking about Brad Holder's alibi. I guess we can read that. Kind of goes with what we were talking about. On 4/13/2017, the following information was emailed to S.A. Richard E. Davies by TFO Rogers to be memorialized. On February 17th, 2017, Pulaski County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Federal Rogers followed up at Liberty Landfill in an attempt to verify the employment and the work schedule of Bradley Holder. Right? He makes a good suspect. We're going to look at him. Let's go check out this weird fucking guy who drives around an old truck with a big G on the front. You know, the G is, part of his Freemasonry. So he's just out there broadcasting all of that. Living recklessly, if you ask me. Upon arriving at Liberty Landfill, located in Buffalo, Indiana, this officer spoke to Susan Case. And we read the testimony of Susan Case. So if you want to go find that, just type in Susan Case and Sleuth Intuition. It'll bring you to her testimony. And she's the one that explains like the time card situation, and really that whole thing is flimsy, if you ask me. But you have to remember, it's like, is he going to go through all of that to commit this murder and risk it all? This would have had to have been all of his pre-planning. You think he's actually capable of that? I say don't underestimate anybody, but my gut says no, he's not capable of that. But I could be underestimating him, right? Okay. Upon arriving at Liberty Landfill, located in Buffalo, Indiana, this officer spoke to Susan Case. Case is the human resource contact person at the work site. Case advised this officer, Bradley Holder, is currently employed with the landfill, and he was indeed working on February 13th. 2017, from 4:55 a.m. till 2:45 p.m. So there you have it. They even asked, I think Baldwin asked Susan during her deposition, is it possible for somebody else to kind of clock in and operate his machinery? She said, no, you would need somebody with specific skills and a lot of training. Okay, so what if you had somebody that was trained and was the equivalent of a Brad Holder? Couldn't he do the operation? She said no. She said not. She said it's just not possible. Like everybody's interacting, they're communicating through radios. I say it is possible, but then the question is it realistic? No, it's not. Is Brad Holder capable of something like that? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. He doesn't seem like the smartest guy, right? But then again, you don't want to assume. I say it is possible, definitely not likely. Because I mean, he he's such a creepy dude. And if you buy into those sticks being some kind of a signature, then yeah, he makes a perfect suspect. But I personally don't. I feel that others are just a little bit compelled to buy into that. It's more fantastical. It's better than what really happens on a day-to-day basis. And this is why I get so upset with those Richard Allen supporters, is because I want you guys to be prepared. I want myself to be prepared. You can't be prepared when you're out here chasing down fantasies, because the truth is it's more likely that there's going to be somebody with a weird personality disorder, who is sadistic, maybe suffering from psychopathy, who fantasize about murder and rape on a daily basis. And for whatever reason, all the cards are stacked against him and he can't hold back the demon. Driving home, sees a young girl, a woman, a man, whatever it is, a helpless, vulnerable target. And for whatever reason, they go forward with it. This is what really happens, right? Not these Odinist Freemasons creeping. Does that stuff happen? Absolutely. I believe it does happen. Do I believe that they're going to pick a location like the Delphi High Bridge, near Ron Logan's property? No, that's not what's happening. We need to be prepared for the real danger, the opportunistic, sadistic psycho who fantasizes about murder and rape on a daily basis and who is compartmentalized, who keeps that hidden from the rest of the world and only lets it out when he's comfortable or feels like he's alone, even to his own family. These people manipulate, they're chameleons. And if we go around believing nonsense that isn't based behind reality, we're not preparing ourselves in the proper way, in my opinion. Okay. Case advised, this officer, Waste Management, is the owner of the landfill, and they require the employee to use a digital time card system to clock in and out. Case advised that she would be the only person on site to be able to make any changes to the time system, but there were no changes made to Brad's time card. So if you got ahead of it, right, and you had somebody scan in for you and also go out and work your position and just kind of tuck their head down, maybe even drive your car, right? You have this individual drive your car. Nobody really recognizes this person, or maybe they were supposed to be off that day and they're there that day and they didn't clock in, but they stayed hidden. I think it's possible, but it's just very Hollywood-esque, right? Far-fetched, I think, is the word. But yes, he does. He makes a hell of a person of interest, So I'm glad that they investigate him. It just, what are you going to do? The guy has a fucking alibi. The case advised, Brad drives a junky red truck to work with a G on the hood on the front bumper. Case advised, the security camera at the scales may have picked up his vehicle coming and going on that date. Case advised, Holder stays on property for his lunch breaks. And in the other release of exhibits, we got to look at his actual time card. So this is more of the Odinism stuff. We went over all of that. Messer. Some more stuff from Brad Holder. Weird stuff he does with sticks. This looks like the private drive. This is very interesting. Okay, this is by Liebert. This sketch right here. And I always thought this sketch looked like Julian Powell. Or even possibly, I mean, I don't know, maybe McCain, with the weird hair sticking out and the weird hat. Early in the morning, Liebert testified that somebody was messing around near her mailboxes. So remember, there was that footage from Brad Weber's neighbor, Mr. Sandifer. He released it of not only Brad Weber's van, but earlier there was what appears to be a white vehicle, a small vehicle, pulling into the private drive entrance near the mailboxes, and then like a minute or two later pulling out. So right at that very location, Liebert reports this individual kind of fucking around over there, like around 8:30 in the morning. So if this person's involved, that could be like recon. And then remember, Brad Heath testified that he saw a vehicle that kind of matched the vehicle that Betsy Blair reported. Right? He's seen it at all, throughout the day, early in the morning and then later on. And then he even told Gray Hughes that his buddy that he works with or that works at Anderson's told him, yeah, I saw that vehicle too. Later on, around 4, I saw it parked up near the Freedom Bridge parking, kind of pointed out over the trails, almost as if they were overlooking and making sure everything went smoothly. That was his words, not mine. So keep that in mind when we find her original tip. And then you have Elvis Fields. They're kind of pointing at him as the suspect. They have an arrow to his head. I don't know if that's where it kind of appears to be hair splitting right here. So I'm not sure what they're trying to do with this. If you really look closely, you can kind of see Richard Allen right here. So I don't know what they're trying to do there. Pareidolia, though. Pareidolia. Stephanie, no good suspect. Clump of hair not tested originally, but during the trial it was tested. Anthony, good to see you. I've been well. How are you? It's always good to see you. Kathy Allen gasped out loud when she heard about the scarf. Yeah, but we got to stay away from all that, CJK. Like, heard it from where? Motivation is the X factor. Why were you there, ready to commit a crime? Well, if he wanted to get his power back, and he knows around that time there's women all over that place, which was true. There was kids, a lot of young girls, teenage girls were there, and single women. So if he's looking to commit a rape, he might think, well, I'll go to the High Bridge and I'll lay in wait. I'll find somebody there. I'll just put on a disguise. I'll get all fucked up. And I'll take him down. I'll wait for him to get on the bridge, and then I'll force him over to the south side. Thanks, Anthony. You've always been a good person in my chat from the beginning. Gwennon, what's up? I'm a witch. That scene is ritual looking. Yeah, if anything, it looks Wiccan. Gwennon. It always looked Wiccan, kind of like some kind of bastardized, like satanic Wiccan pagan ritual. It didn't, it looks more Wiccan to me. I don't see runes. I see possibly something else there. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. I don't want to throw the whole idea out of a ritual because I don't know if Richard Allen's into that kind of shit. But we do know he was involved. Him going home at 4 p.m., just acting normal that night. No way. Kathy had to know he was acting strange. Honestly, Anthony, that's the thing it took me a while to kind of get my mind wrapped around the idea of a compartmentalized killer, right? Somebody that truly shows no signs of remorse or any indication that they just did a horrible crime. You know, if I sneak my wife's ice cream out of the fridge, I feel like the police are coming after me. So I wear it all over my face. You can see that I'm guilty, right? My wife's like, "Who ate my ice cream?" Or like when you come inside the house and the dogs tore up like a napkin or grab something off the counter. You say, "Who did this?" And you kind of look around and you could see the guilty dog, right? You can see the guilty party. It's written all over their face. But with a compartmentalized psychopath who views humans as items, objects of their fantasy, it's easy for them to just be, especially if they've been fantasizing about murder and killing for a long time, and then they finally do it. They've been expecting this. They've almost been preparing for this. Like, I knew I would do this. I knew I would kill somebody one day. I just didn't know when or how it would happen. So when it happens, they're not reacting to it. It's something that they've been expecting for a long time, and they knew that it really wouldn't bother them. It's not something that they can control. They just don't have any empathy for humans. Maybe animals and small children, but that's it. More sticks from Brad Holder. Like, I get it, Brad. He's a great, good luck with that in court. This was a new one. I don't think I saw this one. This one kind of looks a little bit like more about the area that it was found, but this is something naturally occurring in the tree. But interesting, I don't think I saw that photograph. But yeah, more weird shit with sticks, and then we have sticks at the crime scene. Yeah, it's interesting, guys. The guy has an alibi. Shadow looking like the bridge guy, right? Poofy jacket. You're describing what people think Rick is. What do you mean? If you'd like to support the channel, here's Sleuth's Cash App. Thank you. Yeah, hit the Cash App if you can. If you can't hit the Cash App, just hit the like button. Stephanie Logan Holder. Oh, the sketch? I don't know. I mean, he does kind of have that weird looking kind of like high cheekbone, long, elongated face. But I mean, as far as we know, he's accounted for too. Like, he was in a classroom apparently. So he couldn't have been that sketch. Unless you can prove he wasn't in school, and then I'd be like, shit, maybe. Anthony says, I think Alan is guilty but didn't get a fair trial, which is very scary. I agree. I don't know that he didn't get a fair trial. I don't think that Indiana and the girls were given a fair trial. I think that they had to hide a lot of things to try to keep everything on a straight and narrow path to success, which is a conviction, right? They knew what the defense team was going to bring forth, and they had to have a countermeasure for all of that. They had to be able to counteract anything that the defense would bring forth, right? Like the fact that they said others were involved. Well, they thought that Richard Allen eventually would come out and say, yeah, it was me and Kagan Klein. But he didn't say that. So they're like, well, we got to throw that out, because if we don't have any evidence that other people were involved, the defense team will exploit that, and it makes the prosecution's case that much weaker. So they had to abandon it. So that's not right. Abandoning the truth to try to just, I don't know, just get what small bit of justice you possibly can, while doing a bunch of corrupt shit. I don't know. It just leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. And I think a lot of them are misinterpreting that. And we all sense it, but a lot of us, I don't think, are taking the time. They're letting their emotions, they're not doing the investigating themselves. Like, I don't give a shit about the law enforcement or the prosecution. I just want to know what happened. I don't believe in justice, right? But I do believe in the ability to hold these people accountable and call them out and demand receipts and show your own receipts. But yeah, there's absolutely no justice. All we have is a courtroom filled with two teams of people, and we get to see who can manipulate 12 members of the jury better, more effectively. Will it be the defense? Can they manipulate this group of people better, or will it be the prosecution? And then you will be the guy sacrificed at the altar, whoever's sitting there, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think he got a fair trial. I don't think Indiana and I don't think Abby and Libby got a fair trial, but Rick did, right? Because the evidence is there. And if he's not going to talk, if he's not going to come out and say what happened, even give his alibi, and think about this, even his own mother did not step up and testify for him. So nobody wants to talk about that. I'm happy to talk about Brad Holder. But if you can't talk about Brad Holder and how suspicious he is, and then the fact that Richard Allen's mom didn't testify and that he hasn't talked about his alibi and he's not even coming out and talking about how innocent he is, you have to talk about it all. You have to be consistent if you want to have an actual conversation. Otherwise, you're just picking and choosing. You're playing like a defense attorney, right? Oh, well, let me pick the best things that look good. And I'm going to leave out all of this because it helps, the other person's narrative. You have to just bite the bullet. You have to take it all in. I mean, be true to yourself. Forget everybody else. What about yourself? More sticks, strange sticks. So I'm sure we're getting to the Betsy Blair tip. What is this? Julie Melvin. Oh shit, it has her phone number on here. Hold on, let me take this off the screen. Oops. Hopefully she doesn't have the same. Sorry, Julie. Okay, on 4/14. So this looks like an original tip from Julie Melvin on Brad Holder. See, and she was on it, but it sounds like she crossed the line a little bit, and you guys can be the judge of that. Let me read this. According to some of these highlighted areas right here. On 4/14/2017 at 12:10 p.m. Eastern Time, Julie Melvin, date of birth unknown, cellular telephone, home address unknown, called the FBI public access line unit to report a suspect in the Delphi double homicide. So this is basically exactly what I did, I think. Oh, no. I did something online for the Florida fires. I didn't call a number. I filled out something on a website, on the FBI's website. They get very detailed too. Melvin is part of a group trying to help find the Delphi double homicide suspect. Melvin noticed Brad Holder should be looked into as a suspect, and I agree. He should have. Holder was a part of the search party and attended the funeral. I don't think he was part of the search party. So this just kind of exposes the online rumors and bullshit that they like to add in there, right? They don't have faith in the truth, so they have to embellish. Holder was at the funeral, and Melvin has a picture of him at the funeral that was secretly taken by one of the women that is part of the group trying to find the Delphi double homicide suspect. So this is actually the origin of the beef. Well, actually, Melvin and the Patty's beef go way back to Cody Patty. But this is where it started for the Pattys in relation to the Delphi murders. So they got upset because Julie Melvin got her hands on those photographs and apparently was sending them to the FBI. Who knows what else she was doing. But either way, she was upset because amongst those photographs was an image of Libby in her casket. I mean, come on. You got to just admit, hey, I was wrong. I crossed the line. I think being able to apologize about doing something really shitty shows a lot of class. Holder is approximately 40 years old, approximately 5'11", and has a red beard. Melvin stated Holder changes his weight often. Holder doesn't typically wear glasses, but wore a pair to the funeral. See, so now she's trying to add in all this stuff, right? Oh, he's changing his description. Like they need her help. Like, oh my God, he's wearing glasses? Like, how do you know he doesn't wear glasses? You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, you know everything about Brad Holder. Well, anyway, that's her tip. What's going on, Eli? Fantasy of his, a while probably. Yeah, that's how it works with these compartmentalized sadistic killers, Darkseid. They fantasize about it, what they want to do. And then when they do it, they're like, ah, shit, well, I always knew I was going to do it. I just never knew when. So it's always, well, usually it's preceded by some kind of a stressor, bankruptcy, loss of a job, loss of a family member, something along those lines, something that's life altering. And we learned through the trial that Richard Allen had a dependent personality disorder, which was focused on Kathy Allen. My sources told me that Rick Allen and Kathy Allen were kind of going through a rough patch. Her brother had just passed away. She was self-medicating any chance she had to kind of get to herself. She was just going out and having fun, not really paying attention to Rick Allen. That could be deemed as a stressor. His daughter moved out. So I want to learn more about that. And that'll probably be the last part of this live stream is Kathy Allen's interview. So we'll get to that. That'll be part 1. But we're going to get to all of this. Maybe it'll end up being like a 3-part series. Hopefully just 2. But I want to find Betsy Blair's tip. There's some interesting things considering what we just went live about with Dave McCain. Some more stuff on Brad Holder, Bottoms Up, Brantley Gilbert, Alpha Durhady, and it's got some weird, looks like a metal band. Amon Amarth, first kill. Oh my gosh! So it's not okay to look at Richard Allen and his weird Google post, right? That doesn't, and I agree with that. But it's okay to look at Brad Holder's, right? It's okay to use his. And that's what these hypocrites will say. When you bring up Richard Allen's Google searches and the weird movies that he's wanting to watch, right? Like, I want to watch the most fucked up thing on TV. That doesn't mean that he's the Delphi killer. Sometimes I want to watch some fucking crazy shit too. I don't think there's anything weird about that. But if you say, okay, well, why are you showing the weird shit that Brad Holder's doing when you said that when Richard Allen does it, it's meaningless? So it means something when Brad Holder's doing it, but it's meaningless when Richard Allen does it. See, that's hypocrisy right there. There's no consistency. And nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. But we care. Sleuth cares. Cutting runes. So they're making like little coins and putting runes on the coins and then putting them in a leather pouch. A clump. Oh, I'm so far behind, guys. Sorry. My theory, he had multiple personalities. Richard, the psycho, Rick with most people, and Ricky with his mama. Well, I think Rick might have his own stories. He might, he talked about being molested as a child. His sister said that he never molested her, but according to him, it was when they were young. When he was really, so she probably doesn't even remember. But it was probably because he was being victimized. So he was being assaulted and he was acting out onto her what was being done to him. The question is, who did that to him? Because in a weird way, they kind of played a part in the murders of Abby and Libby. If they sowed that satanic seed within his heart and separated him from God by just doing, perpetrating an awful crime against him, I think at a young age that could separate you from the idea of God. Gwennon says, wait, what? You think Rick is guilty? Who? Me? Yeah, absolutely. In what capacity? I don't know. I think others could be involved. Shit, even Dave McCain could be involved. But these are just my opinions. Hypothetically, BTK managed to do the same thing just multiple times. He was able to turn it off and turn it on. Well, I think he was a different predator. I think Rick Allen is more of an opportunistic guy. You know, when things get really rough and he can't control it, then disaster strikes. With the BTK, I think he thought that he was more of a hunter and that he could just outsmart everybody, and he actually enjoyed the hunt. I'm sure that was part of the kick for Rick Allen too, but I think it was just more about dominating those young girls, right? His life is in turmoil. I'm going to go get control back. How do we do that? By playing with the ultimate sin, right? The crime of murder, the crime of assault, right? You can go to jail for a long time. So he's at his breaking point. He's probably thought, well, I'll take my own life. Remember, they said he put a gun in his mouth. That didn't work. He's like, I can't do it. He's like, I'm too selfish. I think he even said that, like in one of his interviews. I was too selfish to take my own life. God, I wish he would have. This wouldn't have happened. So he's already at his breaking point, but he's too much of a coward to take his own life. What else is there? Probably his own family. And he's like, shit, I don't want to do that. I need to go out. I need to go out and commit this crime, get my power back that way. Because he was ready to throw it all away, I think, in my opinion. Hold on. All right, let's see. Yeah, it's too subjective. It's my opinion versus yours. It's just not clear what it is. You can bring me one expert that says, yeah, it's pagan. And then you can bring me two more that say no, or vice versa. Why didn't anyone ever call the police and say Bridge Guy works at CVS? How would they know? I also believe Richard Allen was part of something bigger, maybe a ring where someone's frightening high up and their family was involved. Could be. That could be why he stayed quiet. You imply the perpetrator had desires he couldn't control, which is what people say about Rick. Yep, absolutely. Bye. Bye. Do you think Kagan would have gotten that much time if he wasn't connected with Delphi? I don't. That's a good question. Yeah, I feel like that's something maybe they discussed behind the scenes. I didn't think that at first, Anthony, but I keep seeing all of these similar cases in Indiana. It's almost as if the judge knew that he confessed to participating in the Delphi murders and didn't have any sympathy on him. Because, yeah, I see people who have committed murder in Indiana who get less than what Kagan Klein received. I think he deserves what he got, but yeah, usually they don't get what they deserve. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit shocking to see a sentence that was actually deserved in my eyes, because typically that doesn't happen. They let these guys out with 12-year sentence. They get out and they just reoffend, which is what he would do. Keegan Klein got arrested and began offending while he was in jail. He used his own mother to get contacts from girls that he was friends with in high school and began soliciting photos and sexual conversations from them. Like, how sick is that? Rick is innocent. I'm out. Okay, bye. That's usually when somebody says Rick is innocent and they don't know why. They just know that all their really good friends that they love and who are nice to them think that too. I would think he'd be worn out, may want to sleep. What's up, Teresa? See ya. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, come back when you're less triggered. Oh no, Gwennon. Now you're blocked. Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. See, that's what a big baby looks like. You know how many people sub to my channel that think Richard Allen is innocent? I would say 20% of my subscribers. You don't see them acting all weird. This was interesting too. This looks like a sheet that we haven't seen by the sketch artist. You know, these are his notes. Not as much. I can't really make that out. Oh, does that say not as much space between nose and mustache? What does that say? Nose and something. Shit, I can't even begin to read that. I have to try to edit that and figure that out. Jeez, these copies are awful. I don't know where I got this copy. I only seen 2 people with the link. So whoever sent this to me got it from the guy on X or All Eyes on YouTube. So if you guys are looking for your own copy, that's where I would go. Okay, here it is. Check this out. And this is fucking interesting. Mostly because we were just talking about Dave McCain. Hey, Peggy, what's up? Good to see you. Welcome on in. This tragedy happened in a small town where law enforcement was not ready or equipped for what happened. If this happened in Indy, he is busted in days. I agree. They weren't prepared, and they were too proud. And now we're living with the results of that pride. Just think with these people who loved kid killers, self-confessed, convicted by a jury, kid killers, and Allen gave info and was there per his timeline. Yes, and it's okay because people are falsely convicted. People falsely confess to crimes all the time. So I take that seriously. But also, if you're going to be re-victimizing family members by saying something like, oh, Richard Allen is innocent, I just want to hear why. Like, why would you go around saying something so hurtful? Like, I get where you're coming from, but for you to take such a bold stance, which I want to stand next to you, I want to stand with you, and I want to shout what you're shouting, but we need to have some substance. So please explain to me why you're taking this bold and outside of the box position. Well, blah, you know, and then they just start spewing all this weird nonsense. So it's just hard to respect. I haven't heard a good argument for it, is what I'm saying. Faked up shit. Sleuth. What's up, Fishy? How's the title? Oh, how's the little? Oh, wonderful. Thanks for asking. Right on track with all his behaviors, movements, where he's at his 2-month mark. Cute as ever. Thanks for asking. So him with the gun threatening to kill himself before the crime definitely flags. Absolutely. So we know that was a fact. And then we also know that he made the comments that he wanted to take his own life, but he was too much of a coward. Do you think we'll ever get to read the interviews with Kathy and his daughter? I don't know. We're going to read the one with Kathy today. We're going to read Kathy's interview right after this. But let's go to Betsy Blair's tip. I'm just trying to catch up on the chat real quick. TJ Collins, what up? Come up with something, the freaks? No, it's just the sleuth crew. TJ. Oh, looks like that was Gwen's comment. Can't click on it. She's been blocked for being a trigger troll. Remember, we invite all all ideas. You just can't get all weird about it. We're not going to tolerate it. Mouth to mouth. What's up somewhere in Canada? Yeah, this one is crazy. Yeah, this is so interesting. Yeah, she does, Teresa. She does. I read like the first couple sentences, and that's what they ask her. So, what was going on that day? So, I'm interested. I'm very interested. I haven't read the whole thing yet. Yeah, that's why I don't understand when they let child offenders and pedophiles and rapists out. And I understand if you're giving them a second chance, but when they offend and then you give them a slap on the wrist the second time and then they go out and kill like a small child, I feel like judges should be held responsible. Like if you let somebody out, you should be charged. If they do something and they commit a horrendous crime, I think a judge or somebody has to pay for that. Something has to happen. Because I'm getting sick of it. All right. You're welcome, Mary. Okay, check this out. Let's read this. So occurred from 213, occurred to date 213, reported, it looks like the following month on the 7th, which is kind of suspicious. Let's see. And this doesn't look like the whole thing. Anyway, let's read this part. Betsy said that she had been shown the video from the Hoosier Harvest Store by somebody from ISP. Okay, so if this was reported on the 7th, what's interesting is Nicole Robertson's probable cause affidavit said that Abby and Libby were dropped off around 1 p.m. I always assumed that they didn't have the Hoosier Harvest Store video by then. Why would Nicole Robertson be saying that they showed up at 1 p.m. when they know from the video that it was closer to 1:45? So I always found that odd. Like it was almost a blatant lie. And that's why she was the one writing the affidavit. Like, oops, my bad. And then, she would be the one to take the blame for it. Some weird shit. Always some shady shit going on. That's the part I just can't stand. She said that it was hard to see the vehicle on the video. She thought it might help her looking at the still picture that could be zoomed in on. Betsy looked at the picture and picked a vehicle that we have identified belonging to David McCain. So you have Brad Heath reporting this boxy car, this older style car, sedan, something you would take fishing on a Sunday, he said. He said he saw it early in the morning, parked fucked up, right? And we also have some weird guy that Teresa Liebert even gave us a sketch of. He's over there messing around the mailboxes at 8:39 a.m., right around the time that this guy's parking all fucked up. Well, come to find out, the boxy car that Betsy Blair remembers seeing at the CPS building, mind you, right here, we're being told she pointed out a vehicle identified belonging to David McCain. The guy who wanted to acquire the CPS building, a guy who would know that it was wide open and unlocked, which it was. It could also explain the reason that Rick Allen was there. Maybe the whole objective was to go down the private drive, kidnap the girls, and then take them to the CPS building where then they could do whatever it is that they were planning to do. But instead, you have the white van and all hell breaks loose. Okay, Betsy said that was the closest similar in style with the angles she was remembering. That's crazy. I asked Betsy what a lap was to her, right? She said she took a lap. Betsy said that she would start at the trailhead and walk to the main trail hub, walk to the Monon High Bridge, back to and down Niches Trail. That's the 505. The Niches Trail takes you to, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Scratch that. Back to Hub, then to Freedom Bridge. Yeah, so that must be what she's referring to, because I thought maybe on the trail to Freedom Bridge was referred to as Niches. But she must have been talking about the Mary Gerard, the Gerard Reserve. That's the 505. That's where the corn crib is. That's the place that Richard Allen helped the McCains tear down a part of their old property. And who knows what other secrets were torn down, right? Were hidden in the rubble. Okay, I asked Betsy about where she saw the 3 or 4 girls that didn't see her. Betsy said that she saw them near the old railroad overpass, State Route 25. Okay, let's go find Kathy's interview. And it's not the whole interview. It's weird. It starts. I mean, I don't know how much was left out, but it must have been redacted for whatever reason. But it should be right here. Okay, here it is. Yeah, it's all emotional, no factual information. Mary C. I found it very interesting, Mary. So you have Brad Heath saying that this boxy style car was hanging around early on. You have Teresa Liebert saying somebody was lingering around the private drive entrance. Through the Sandifer security footage, we see a car pulling up right before the girls were abducted, pulling up to the private drive entrance, and then a minute or two later leaving. Was somebody that was snooping around at 8:39 a.m. the same person that's now being dropped off to go wait under the private drive, right? You got a guy hiding under the private drive, and then you have Rick walking across the bridge. There's no escape at that point. You try to turn around and run down the hill, somebody's waiting for you. Wasn't there discussion about McCain parking at the CPS building? That's why I was surprised he testified he parked by Sherry's Lane. Yeah, he said he parked at the Mears lot. So we got to be careful with all these online rumors. It just mucks up the water. But yeah, he may have been lying about that. That's what Betsy Blair said. And did you notice they left that part out, Peggy? They left the part out about Betsy saying that the car that she really pointed out was McCain's. Why didn't Baldwin say something about that? Why didn't Baldwin say, hey, the car you actually pointed out is being parked at the CPS building? The one that you thought closely matched what you saw is this other guy's vehicle. This other guy's vehicle who happened to be there when the girls were killed between 2 and 4. That's the timeline of the killer. Nobody's interested in that at all. Not even Baldwin or Rosie. So if there's a real conspiracy, that's how it works. Baldwin and Rosie would be playing ball right along with Gull and the prosecution. If that's what's going on. Okay, we're going to finish with this. So this is Kathy's interview transcript. And it looks like some of it's cut off because I don't know anybody that starts a conversation with, okay, and then them questioning attention around. All right, you remember that day at all? What you were doing? What was going on that day? I think I was working that day. I mean, what day of the week was it? Monday. Yeah, I would have been working. And then Valentine's Day would have been on Tuesday. Okay. If that, I don't know if you do anything special on Valentine's Day or not. No. That kind of made me sad. Sometimes people do special, and my schedules, well, yeah, I guess you don't always do something special on Valentine's Day. But the way she just tried to avoid it, like, okay, it's Valentine's Day, so what? Sometimes people do special things. Yeah, I have to look back, but I'm pretty sure I was probably working. Okay, on Tuesday as well. I had Tuesdays off at one point, and then I had Wednesdays off back and forth, so it could be, I'm sure I was probably working that Tuesday. Okay. If not, I would have been off. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, that'd have been a Monday, but yeah. Yeah. On the Monday, yeah. Yeah? I would have been working on that day. Okay. You got a daughter? Yes. Is that the only child you got? Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Was she still in school back then? 2017? She would have been in college. Okay. Actually, I think she would have been married at that point because she graduated from Delphi in 13. Okay, 13. Yeah. She would have probably been in Napanee at that point. Okay. Because she and her husband have been married about 6 years now, 5 or 6 years. What's her name? Brittany Allen. Any Brittany? Any? Okay. Middle name is Ann, but there's an E on the end, and last name is Zapanta. Now, okay, spell that for me. Z as in zebra, Apanta. Okay, yeah. You said she lives in Napanee? Yes. All right. So she'd have been out of school? She would have had been around here. Oh no. At that point in time, no, no. Okay, because she went to college for she went to Ball State. Okay, for 4 year degree? No, 2. 2 year. Okay. Yeah, yeah. And then she ended up getting a job right after that within probably 6 months and started living up in Napanee. Okay, so she'd probably be in Napanee at that point. Yeah, yeah. She graduated in 2013. Yeah. So it's just been you and your husband at home. Yes. Okay. And our cats. Haha. Ha ha ha. A lot of cats. Well, we have 3. 3, but we have 2 now. Yeah. That's plenty. Sometimes one's plenty. He doesn't seem like a cat guy. Yeah. So the 2 of you just lived at home at that point in time. Yes. Was he working then? Yes. Okay. Where did he work then? CVS. Did he work at Walmart too? I think he's been at CVS about 5 or 6 years. So it might have been right on the cusp of him, okay, starting there. And you said Walgreens? Walmart? Walmart. Yeah, okay. It was in Lafayette. The one on 26? Yes. Okay, and would you know whether he worked that day or not? Oh God, I can't remember what yesterday. Okay. I seriously am having a lot of brain fog with COVID. Okay, so you have COVID then? Oh, yes. Okay. Like 3 times. Oh, she must have got the vaccine then. Oh, it's not fun. No. The information that we have, and this actually came from him. Oh, was that he was on the trail that day. Okay. Does he normally go to the trails? Wait a minute. So did she try to lie for him? Yeah, that's a little bit odd. I thought she knew damn well that he was on the trail. They asked, okay, and would you have known whether he worked that day or not? She knew for a fact he didn't work that day and that he told her that he didn't go on the bridge. So she's using this whole COVID thing. I don't know. I'm detecting some deception here. He's like, "Well, we know that you're lying. Like this, he already told us." Oh, we used to go quite a bit. Okay. Oh yeah, we walk the trails a lot. Would he go by himself or occasionally if he had the day off? Well, there you go, right? Yeah, I mean, I've done into on my day off before. Now I haven't done it since they started doing construction and stuff actually. We don't walk the trails. No, we walked the other trails and then the Monon one we've walked, but it's probably been a year or 2. So he stopped walking the trails after the murders. That's interesting. Exotic, welcome. What's going on? Richard Allen's physical changes while in custody is what I would expect to see from somebody who's been wrongly accused. Yeah, well, I don't know. Or somebody with a secret. I don't know what that means. What is somebody that's been wrongly accused? What do they look like? Can you show me some other examples of people that look like Richard Allen? Had to throw that out there, Timmy. Dark side. Exotic, that is a good point. I mean, look at Koberger, big difference. Yep, absolutely. Very ambiguous. Okay, where were we? We walked the other trails and then the Monon one we've walked, but it's probably been a year or 2. Yeah, we don't walk that one too much. So that wouldn't be unusual for him to go out and do the trails? No, because I do it too. Yeah, until that happened. I mean, I don't carry or anything, but I'm a little more cautious if I go by myself. Right. But which part of the trails did you guys go to most of the time? Well, we'd walk the main trail, and then there was one that would come off of of that trail. So they're talking about the 505 that goes down the hill towards the shack. Okay, so and there used to be like the main one out there, right? The Monon Bridge one. We'd walk that one, and then we would walk, the turnaround. You'd have to turn around, right? Because the tracks were getting really bad. At some point I just quit going that way, and then there was a place that you could go down to the river like canoers would go. And we'd go down there quite a bit. Okay, because it was prettier down there. So I would walk clear to the bridge a lot of times. We'd walk to the bridge, yeah. Okay. And then usually turn around because it's too hard to walk over it. But we did. Would you guys walk over it years ago though? Oh, would you guys? And she said walk over it years ago though. Okay. I mean way before. Well, they still have the thing up there. I don't know if they have it shut off completely or not now, but I haven't been down there for years. So she knows for a fact that Rick used to cross that bridge. Okay, when did you guys start going out to the trails and walking the trails? Oh my gosh, we've been here for 14 years. Okay, Delphi area? Uh-huh. Okay, where'd you come from before that? We lived for like a year in Greenwood because he was transferred from Walmart. And then before that, we lived in Mexico, Indiana. And we lived there since 91 until 2006, maybe. I think it was 2006 we moved here. Okay, we worked for Walmart. He worked for Walmart when he was living in Mexico too, or he worked for Mr. Steve's. So that's new information. What the fuck is that? Mr. Steve's. Which has now been sold. But it was a rent to own company. Okay. And that was in Lafayette? And he did like supervisor through district like supervisor? Or excuse me. And that was in Lafayette and he did like supervisor through district like supervisor. And he went to Walmart from there? Yes, I believe that Walmart was his next one. There were a few little odd ones, like there was a factory. He tried Chrysler for a while. Holy shit. That's fucking interesting. Well, there you have it. Another possible Tony Klein connection. He tried Chrysler for a while. Tony Klein worked at Chrysler. Wow. And then he tried another one, and I can't remember the name of the other factory, but he didn't stay. He didn't stay. Okay, and he ended up at Walmart. And he ended up at Walmart. Okay. And then he worked at Walmart for all the way up till CVS. So about how long did he work for Walmart? Oh gosh, I can't recall. I'm sorry. I don't know what year he started. Okay, okay. And the information that we've got from him was that he parked at the old Farm Bureau building, but that's what was given to us. But that would be the old CPS building. She says farm building. Yeah, it would be the CPS building. Was that the one that was off the trail that was abandoned? Mm-hmm. She says, yeah. Is that where you guys usually parked or? Oh, yeah, had to, I mean. Okay, so once again in 2019, they had a new direction presser. They were asking anybody that knew somebody that would have been parked at the old CPS building. Right here, you have Kathy Allen admitting that they parked there. It was either that or you had to park down the road, which you weren't supposed to. Did they still have the parking lot? Yeah, but you had to like go down into a ditch to get to it. But okay. People would park there all the time. So he normally would park out there. Oh yeah, that's where we park. All right. What he would have been driving during that time? We had our gray car. I know we're talking like 5 years ago, but I don't recall, hon. I'm sorry. We had our gray car. And then we had a black car. Black car we still have. But it could have been mine because I don't remember what I would have driven that day to work. What was the black car? It's a Ford Focus. And the gray car? That was a Ford 500. Which one did he normally drive? Back then, normally the black car. Mm-hmm. Okay. Remember, he tried to lie about that. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I don't. I can't recall what day if I drove mine or his to work. Okay, so he would have normally where you guys parked was the old yes CPS building. Yes. So if they're giving a new direction presser and saying, "Look, this old guy sketches and the guy we're looking for somebody that looks younger and would have parked at the old CPS building," why didn't she say anything? There must have been a discussion at that point. Yeah, because I mean, you're not supposed to park at the gates because they always acted like you weren't supposed to block it. Right. So I'm sure we probably parked there a couple times, but I'm like, I don't feel comfortable parking there. Yeah, a lot of people did. Yeah, because I think it's private property there. And I knew they built the big lot there, up there where, yeah, the other bridge. But that was years down. I don't think we ever used that one. Okay. I don't think we ever used that one. All right. Then when you parked there, how would you normally get to the trails? Oh gosh, that was before they built the bridge. The Freedom Bridge? Because there was is what you're talking about? Yes. Because I think the trail came down right there where that's built now. Okay. You didn't cross the bridge? So I guess we took that. There's like a little gravel walkway. So the gravel walkway is the one that leads directly to the CPS building. That goes from that building we parked at, and then you can just go down the trail, I think. All right, let's take a break here. See what's going on in the chat. Kokomo. Not worried about his family disowning him. What's up, Webbs? Yeah, that's kind of what he looked like to me as well. Don Spain in the building. What up? We are running out of time, so let me hurry up. So it's crazy to hear Kathy Allen say admit to, or just straight up, like, yeah, we parked at the old CPS building. But when they asked Richard Allen, he like kind of spit up a word salad. And she's like, yeah, we always parked there. We had to. And then he was like, oh, well, we used to park up here and then we park down here. And then I do a loop-de-loop. And then sometimes I like seeing the flowers over here. And then, there was a butterfly this one time on the fence. She's like, yep, we parked at the CPS building. Okay, east of what now is the Freedom Bridge? Don't ask me east or west. So it would be away from town. Yes, yeah. Yeah, east would be away from town. West would be towards town. It's east. Okay. Did he ever talk to you about being out there that day? Look, and she lies. She says no. What the fuck? What does this mean? She's lying. The days the girls went missing, she says no. Never said a word about it. Well, actually, no. He said he went for a walk. Okay. He did say he went for a walk out there and that he ran into these three girls. So which is it? So now she says he did say he went for a walk out there and that he ran into these three girls that were weird. What? Ran into these three girls that were weird. That's what they said about him. They said he was weird. Aw, shit. Thanks, Don. Here, let me see how much more we have to go. I appreciate that, Don. But I am out of time. Shit. Sorry, guys. I only had about an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah, this is a long one. I want to read all of this and I want to focus in on this. So we'll finish this and we'll go through the rest of it early tomorrow morning if I can find the time. So we'll close this down. All right. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize we're already almost at the 2-hour mark. Yeah, there's a lot more going on, but it's just weird. It seems like she's being deceptive. Lying for her hubs. It's like she doesn't want to be a snitch, or she really is just kind of like forgetful about it. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Like I said, this will probably end up being like a 3-part series, a lot of information to go through. I haven't even seen the other half. This is as far as I've gotten. I haven't even scrolled past anything than this. So if I get some time tonight, I'll kind of scroll through it and try to organize my thoughts a little bit about it. Maybe have a better presentation, or maybe we'll just freestyle it again. Either way, thanks for joining me. Hit the Cash App if you can. If not, hit the like button on the way out. Replay crew, you know what to do. Leave a comment. We'll get back to you. Everybody else, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Peace.